do you need?
Thank you. I think it can happen.
Oh, you're so optimistic.
The girl can do it.
That's right. Tell me about it. Okay, we are live.
Thank you. It can happen.
Oh,
Want to close that so we're not going?
yes, thank you. That's exactly what I was getting ready to do.
All right. Can my phone,
Do what?
don't you, can everybody just talk it through whoever's talking? 'Cause it's not
However, whatever,
switching.
it's gonna go whatever, however we've got it set up, is how it's gonna go.
Then we should be good.
So, all right, everybody, thank you for your patience. We were getting everything sorted out, making sure senators, everybody were on here and that we had a quorum. Everybody hear us okay? Those of you on Zoom, can you give me a thumbs up? Yes, okay, perfect, thank you. I've got an email from Betsy that Dr. Kennedy is running a few minutes late, but she will join us when she can. So, and I don't see Dr. Davenport on here. We'll double check here to make sure. I don't think so. Daryl is not joining us today. He called me this afternoon and said he needed to, with regrets, he's not joining with regrets. He really needed to focus his time on working on next year's budget. And since there was just a town hall on Friday, he really didn't have a whole lot of more specific information. While we wait for Dr. Kennedy, I will go ahead and share. I was going to share it in the president's report. I will share that before we, while we wait. He said, we're still on track to come in with a balanced budget. He's waiting on information from the foundation, but he's been assured the funds will arrive. He's hopeful to take next year's budget to next week's Board of Governors meeting, which will include a 6.5% tuition and fee increase. With the COVID funds, the first round amounts were already distributed. The second round, 50% has been obligated thus far. And with that, employee independents were eligible if somebody was able to tap into those resources. So he was understood that employees and dependents were part of that. I'm not sure.
I think that's good.
Is it Dr. Davenport? I'll finish this and then we'll check in and see who's here. There's a third round called the Rescue Act. There is no guidance yet nor an official amount. The state does anticipate receiving some money from it. Unfortunately, we cannot use it for operating costs, which is what we really need. But time will tell on what we're able to use that for. But it was $1.8 million from each of the first two rounds that did go to students. And then upcoming projects using deferred maintenance funds will be parking lots and upgrading some halls. So that's what he called to share with me this afternoon to make sure everyone was aware. He regretfully was unable to attend today, but his report was rather short. And so he'll use this time to work on the budget, which we understand. Is Dr. Kennedy or Dr. Davenport? Dr. Davenport, if you wouldn't mind, Dr. Kennedy is running a few minutes late and Daryl is not reporting today. So if you would like the floor, you are welcome to report.
Well, I don't know if you want me to have the floor or not, but here I am anyway. So yeah, Dr. Kennedy is still in a meeting. I just went down to check. She's in Popwell 122, but so I will make a few remarks. I'm sure she'll have some other things to say as well. I just want to say, first of all, thanks to everyone for helping us with the multidisciplinary research day that took place. That was a great team effort on the part of lots of faculty, staff, students. That is kind of a central showcase event for applied learning on our campus, and that came off without a hitch. And of course, in the midst of a COVID world like we are in, it means you've got to do things differently. And so that was a virtual event. And my thanks especially to the Applied Learning Committee and what they did to make that happen. One of the things that related to applied learning that I want to just announce is that we will be creating what will be known as the Griffin Office of Applied Learning, or GOAL. And that will be led by Dr. Michael Ducey, who's the chair of the chemistry department. He has a lot of great ideas about how we can strengthen and expand our efforts related to applied learning, and I'm very excited about that. As you are probably aware, the Master Academic Plan draft speaks to the enhancement of applied learning on our campus. And I believe that if we are going to successfully recruit more students on our campus, it requires a continued and even stronger commitment to and opportunities for applied learning. So the Griffin Office of Applied Learning, as it begins this next fall, will be a way in which we can better facilitate, coordinate those kinds of activities. So I'm really excited about what that will look like as we move forward. Something that we have talked about amongst this group is the Center for Teaching and Learning. And so we had talked, I believe, last month about the leadership, and as you know, the idea is that the center serves not just faculty but staff as well. And in order to really make that happen, you need a staff person who's also in the role of helping to lead that. And so I'm pleased to announce that Claudia Baer has agreed graciously to support this. So much of what she's doing right now in human resources is tied to processes of professional development, onboarding, et cetera. She's excited to be doing this, and I'm excited that she is going to join Dr. Shauna Hiley as the co-director for the center for this next year. And again, that's you love it when people step up and take on new responsibilities, and so I'm grateful for that. The last thing I wanted to just mention is that we are now once again in the season of advising and registration, and we have I must say we have a lot of students who have not yet registered for classes. We have a lot of students who have not even been advised yet. And conversation with cabinet yesterday and with the deans today, we are going to once again do an all-out blitz to get students, one, to connect with their advisors, their academic advisors, not simply wait for students to make that decision, but to actively, proactively reach out to them to get them to register or to sign up for advising, and then likewise to get students registered. And we will be monitoring that, and because it's absolutely crucial that we get every student registered for the fall. This is the only way we're going to keep our retention rate from heading in the wrong direction. And I know that many times this does involve our staff in ways that sometimes faculty don't always appreciate or not maybe are even really truly aware of. And I just want to say up front, thank you for all those individuals who will be engaged in helping us to reach students so that we can get them registered for next fall. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions that you might have or speak to other issues.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Davenport? I know one struggle that I come up against, Dr. Davenport, is with that student that has, decided to stop out or is transferring for whatever reason. Is the best place to document that just GPS notes? Is there anywhere else we need to send that information that would assist administration in having an idea of what students' plans might be?
And no, it's a great question. And so obviously GPS is the kind of the permanent record where we keep track of these indications. I have just requested from the registrar through Dr. Mace a similar spreadsheet to what we had it was this spring, but it was for spring registration, in which we had a list of all students who had no holds but had not yet registered. And we documented there as well, where students were, changing their plans and not coming back, or were doing something else. And it's good for us to be able to track that. That spreadsheet then becomes a master list that we can use to essentially reach out and understand better where students are at and why they may or may not be coming back if they're not.
Thank you.
This question is, do we know why students aren't registering yet? And is there anything we can do to make it easier for them? Only, like, for example, only meet with advisors once per year instead of semester, remove PIN requirements, anything like that.
I think my counsel there is that, one, we want to reach out to students. In the past, we've always done a lot of advertising where we put out signs, table tents, et cetera, saying, see your advisor, be sure you get, you have that advising meeting so you can get registered. Well, one of the challenges right now is that many students are not on campus because of COVID. So, we all walk around campus and you just don't see the kind of traffic in terms of people walking back and forth. So we've got to take additional steps, not only to reach out to them through social media and other ways, but also directly advisors reaching out as much as we can. I think part of the reason why students are not enrolling, aside from the fact that they're just not thinking about it because it's a very busy part of the semester, which, as an aside, we have moved our advising and registration period much later in the semester. And I think that perhaps has meant that some students haven't thought about it. And so that may be part of it. I do believe there are still a fair number of students who just are not certain about what they're going to do in the future. And they're just trying to sort life out as much as they are anything. And so it's important that we continue to communicate that Missouri Western is going to be reopening in the fall in a way that looks like what they're used to experiencing in a true college environment. We really want that message to be consistently and repeated, I guess is the right word. That's the message we want them to hear. And so please make sure that anytime we engage with students, we're helping them any way we can. So whatever barriers there might be, we have a lot of discussion on this campus about the registration pins. And I know that for some, we feel like that's the only reason they'll ever come see advisors. But I will tell you that in some cases that has become a challenge because they may not be able to get to see their advisor in a timely fashion. But setting that aside, anything we can do that will encourage students, we should be doing. And I think it takes every one of us in that respect. We all engage with students and, hey, just asking the question, hey, have you got registered yet? How's it going? What's it like? I can say that looking at the EdSites data from this last week, there's a lot of concerning information there. And Derek knows this better than almost anybody else on our campus because he sees it, works with that data. And the number of students who say they're not planning on returning or they have questions about returning, that number is higher than it should be. And so everything we can do to help ensure that students are thinking positively about the future and coming back to Missouri Western is important. There was a previous EdSite survey that talks about, are you enjoying your classes? And a very simple survey. And I was very concerned by the number of students who are not enjoying their classes. And in many cases, it's not a matter of I'm in academic distress. They're just not having a great experience. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that we're still under COVID restrictions. We can't get students into the classroom in the same ways. Our plans, of course, for the fall is to return primarily to that face-to-face encounter in the classroom. And the more that students know that, the more likely they are to then say, okay, yes, I do want to return because this has been a challenging year for everybody, but it's going to look different in the days ahead.
It would be interesting if we could compare that data to other institutions, because I think we would find we're just like everybody else, everyone's students are struggling. It'd be interesting to, I guess, maybe make us feel a little bit better, even though we don't necessarily like where it's at.
I just have, just from personal experience of having a daughter that's here in town, that is a senior. I've seen where, like, because of COVID, they've completely missed out on their junior and senior years where you actually figure out what you're going to do with life. I know my daughter's considering coming here, but it just comes back to students just not knowing and not having that traditional try to learn how to take the test to figure out what would you be good at and everything. Question, are we actually in the high schools here in town trying to recruit? Because I really haven't heard much from her of hearing about Missouri Western, and I was kind of concerned about if we're there like we should be.
Are you asking like physically?
Yeah, or some sort. What is our contact? I know I've only received like one thing in the mail from Missouri Western for my daughter, so I was just kind of curious where we were at with reaching out to get our name out there.
I don't want to take Dr. Davenport's time, but I know that our office is meeting. We've gone back to kind of in person around the region. And that it was a struggle, and that only happened, I think, maybe about a month or so into the semester. So we've only had about probably like 8 to 9 operating weeks where we've actually been in and out, which, 2 or 3 visits a week. You're looking at maybe however many that is, right?
Yeah.
Mailers and stuff I know are going out as they usually have been.
I know, well, hopefully my daughter will be another person on the list here before long, but I know that's a thing is just, one other thing. The other issue that she seems to be running into is the ACT test. To be able to take that, there's very limited amounts of places and times that you can take it to be able to do admissions and stuff on there. Are we still doing those here at Missouri Western?
Dr. Davenport, do you have the answer to that, or somebody else?
We are not offering the standard ACT tests on our campus. We have offered some ACT residual tests, but we don't have the normal kinds of offerings like that happen in September, et cetera. One thing I always want to say I was just going to say one other thing for students is that is important is we are now test optional, and because that has been a big barrier. Okay. The state of Missouri is no longer paying for ACT tests, which they did. So when that happened, that hit a lot of institutions heavy, and we had already decided that we wanted to become test optional. We did so last fall, and because that's a barrier for many students. And so I'm very, very pleased that we are no longer requiring that as a way to get admitted to Missouri Western.
Well, that just made my life a whole lot easier as a parent too. So, hey, I'm cool with that. I didn't even realize that. So cool. Thank you. That helps.
Any other questions for Dr. Davenport?
I think there might be one. Jackie reached out. That was about a minute and a half ago by email, so I got to wait until she replies.
Oh, with the question you mean?
It would seem so.
Okay, for Dr. Davenport?
It would also seem so. I'm not sure. I'm asking for clarification.
Okay, Dr. Davenport, if you can hold tight for just a minute, we'll see if we can get some information. Oh, it's kind of been an unusual meeting today, so that's all right. Any other questions while we're waiting? Well, Dr. Davenport, I know we have a May meeting that you'll still be with us, but I know with the announcement of your retirement, we're just very thankful for your service and the brutal past year and a half, I guess I would extend it to, that you have endured. And so I personally, it's hard to imagine everything that's gone on in your world. But I know you've still got time with us, but on behalf of the staff, we thank you with more things to come in the future for everything you've done for our campus and our people.
Well, I do thank everyone for the kind words, and obviously there's a lot of mixed emotions about retirement, because you leave behind great people and a great institution. But there comes a time And I think everybody has to figure out when that moment is. And for me, it was clear that this is the right time. And I know with the leadership team, we're gonna move forward, and that's my goal. So I hope that can truly be the case. Evan, did you get an answer there? Do I have another question?
You do not. You do not have another question. She'll ask whenever it happens. But no, you are good. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Davenport, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it. I don't believe Dr. Kennedy is on here yet, so we will move forward with our meeting, and then when she joins, we'll just stop and let her report and get back to what we are doing. So do we have a motion to approve March meeting minutes, or are there any comments or questions?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Kelly. Was that Jessica that seconded that? Thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? We're gonna do that instead of all in favor. All right, motion passes unanimous.
MWS, you just joined, do you think that's
I don't know.
Dr. Kennedy?
Dr. Kennedy, have you joined us?
Are you still?
I wonder if it's the account in that, in Popplewell.
No, it's us.
Oh, very good. He was a mystery Zoom person, so we weren't, but now we know. Very good. Well, we will turn it over to you. Dr. Davenport has reported, and Daryl earlier called me this afternoon with his report, which has already been shared. So we will turn it over to you.
Okay, well, I apologize for being late. I was actually in a meeting with Sheriff Pruitt, and so we just couldn't get it done. So I hope Betsy let you know we were running a little bit late. So thank you for your patience.
No problem.
So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you folks today. Obviously, we had the town hall last week on Friday, so today is Wednesday. There isn't a lot more to report since then. We do have a Board of Governors meeting next week, and I'm sure that Daryl is furiously working to finalize the budget. I'm sure he reported on that. Other than that, I just want to say, we're really rounding the corner well on this semester, dealing with COVID and those kinds of things. I'm very pleased with the work that everyone has done, and I so appreciate the support of the Staff Association and all your members, as well as all of our employees. But we're really working hard to get across the finish line. Our COVID response team has been meeting. We met on Friday again. We have new guidelines about campus and what can happen, and we're working to get a little more thorough communication on those, get our websites updated. I appreciate the help there. But basically, it does feel like we're going to be able to do more and more and more. We're also reaching out more to current students as well as prospective students. I met today with the Student Government Association to talk about how they can help us encourage their classmates and their peers to get enrolled for courses, to get signed up. Our enrollment of current students thus far is lagging a little bit, so I'm also asking for any efforts, any assistance you might be able to give above and beyond the call of duty to help us get students enrolled for fall. I was talking to the SGA president, the president of student government, who told me he hadn't signed up for classes yet in the fall. I said, Nathan Scott, please do this. So I think there's a little bit of, and speaking as a parent who has one, I think there's a little bit of Generation Z procrastination going on. So we really got to get and push this out. We will be generating lists of students who haven't enrolled, pushing those out, not only to advisors, obviously, but also to faculty and departments and chairs to really get that push going, because that's really what we're working on. And then also thanks to those folks in the marketing unit who yesterday, believe it was yesterday, had a flash pop-up encouragement table to get students to enroll. We're giving out ideas. I mean, we're open to just about any ideas to really get our enrollment up. So I don't really, again, after the town hall Friday and conversations, I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have. I don't think I have too much other than where we are focusing on with enrollment new. So I'm happy to take any questions.
And we had a good discussion about advising and registration with Dr. Davenport with some questions that were posed at that time. So we have had a little discussion around that, but I guess I hear some hope if, if Nathan hadn't registered yet, that there'll be others that are in a similar boat.
I'm thinking so. I know we're also still going through final details for commencement. I don't know, Andrea, if you shared with this group that you're going to be on the provost search committee, kind of representing the staff association. I don't know if that had been shared. We're moving that forward. Trying to think, are there any questions or anything that anybody would like to know specifically, or ideas or good things they want to tell me about?
I do have a question. Sure. Was the budget town hall, was that recorded? Is it anywhere so that people can watch it now? I'm asking because I missed it.
Oh, I'll find out from Betsy. I believe it was recorded. I remember seeing the little recording button, the red dot or whatever, however that's up. I'll ask Betsy. I'm not sure. Kevin McWhorter was helping us with the technology side of that, so we'll have to find out for sure. But if it is, I'll make sure we get a message out and let people know where it's located.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're
I have
welcome.
questions, so thank you for posing that. Thank you.
Sure. I'm gonna write that down.
Other questions for Dr. Kennedy? Feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want to send it into the chat, we have the chat box open. Give everybody a minute here.
The other piece is, I meet with you guys regularly, and I had mentioned that for a lot of the departments, but I'm also throwing it out to other units of coming and meeting. If you have a regular meeting, or if you want to do a special meeting, meeting with academic departments, some other units, because sometimes in town halls, the conversation feels like it's ginormous, like about this big. And really what you care about is your unit, which is about this big. And so, I'm just kind of throwing out the open invitation if there's a group that would want to get together just for conversation, let me know. I'm happy to do that. Betsy handles my calendar, so she can calendar you in if you like. We can work on that. I have, I've done 6 to date. I think I have 8 or 9 more to go that are scheduled thus far. So it might be a little bit out of my calendar, but they're getting there. We're getting on board.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions? This might be your shortest meeting ever. Oh, I got it. I don't see one's coming through the chat.
This is a question from Daryl's report. What are the qualifications for CARES money that some employees and dependents received?
I cannot speak to that. I don't know. Dr. Kennedy, or can you, Daryl called over this afternoon and shared some information about just a handful of things, but one of them was the COVID funding. So do you want to repeat that question one more time?
Yeah, so it's what were the for CARES money that some employees and dependents received?
Okay, well, I'm not sure, but if I'm reading the question right, I think it's not perhaps posed as succinctly, because nobody got CARES money directly. We had CARES funding that, well, there's actually 2 times, first in spring of 2020, and then most recently that went to students. And if that's the question, we did have, is that where we're going, right direction? Okay.
He wanted to make sure it was clear that employee dependents were included in that population.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
That's where that came from.
Right. So it was, I think it was about 1.8 million that we got, that we were directed to reimburse to students. And so basically taking that money, looking at things like basis of need, Pell eligibility, funding. I think the first distribution that was given last spring of 2020, employee dependents were excluded because the thinking was they were already getting financial assistance. So My conversation with Daryl is, that doesn't make any sense to me. If we're giving money, if we have money to distribute back in proportion to students in terms of need and those kinds of things, then we ought to include everybody. So that's why they were. Yeah, so it was just a difference in, it was a difference in administrative decision, really. Now, in terms of like the actual numbers, like who got what and what the breakdown was, that you'd have to get from Daryl. I remember seeing the chart, but I can't remember exactly how the amounts in my head. I couldn't rattle them off to you, but there was a system to this. But basically, when the previous administration was in place, they just made the decision that they wouldn't do it again because of the tuition reimbursement piece. I decided that wasn't important in my decision-making. Let's just leave it at that.
Understood.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Yeah, there's obviously a formula, just like anything else financial aid driven that would have,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it does with what are they, estimated family contribution or something like that. I forget what the acronym is, but it's basically that kind of a need-based assessment. And then there were different levels and different amounts. But, we came up with the funding, we came up with our principles, and we got the checks out and turned around relatively quickly. So, now the big question with the CARES money is for the next round of funding, whenever they tell us what we're going to get and what will be the restrictions in terms of how we use that money, whether it's capital improvement, deferred maintenance, or what. It's a new administration at the federal level, and they're the ones that wrote the rules or will be writing the rules for how this is going to look. I'll give you just a quick example. Today, I met with Senator Hawley's Kansas City Chief of Staff person, and I asked her specifically, when will we know how much and when and how and all the details? And she said, well, as soon as the Biden administration figures it all out. So I think the whole nation, from my perspective, is kind of waiting to see what happens with that.
Sure. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions for Dr. Kennedy? Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Again, apologize for being late, but thank you for accommodating my schedule. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, we will move into committee reports. First up, Salary and Fringe.
We did meet and just chatted a little bit about it is me, right? You said salary and fringe?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, sorry. We were discussing the faculty salary report, and we're just making some comments about that, and we're still going to meet about it again. And we had been asked to maybe look at staff and compare them to other universities. The biggest downfall is that a lot of our names aren't, where faculty is associate professor, assistant professor, professor, full professor, where the names that are the titles that we have are going to be different across each school. So there's a lot of challenges that we were going to discuss on how to move forward on that. Is that something that you guys still want us to do?
I would open that for the floor to discuss. Senators, how you feel about that?
Okay.
I think it would be terrific information and data to have, but I absolutely see how it's a nightmare. You have to look up one at a time.
Yeah. I just went in just briefly just to look. So I went in just for like myself and looked at Northwest, saw a dean of one of their colleges and looked her name up and found her name. So that was comparable. But they call them secretaries up there. Or that's what it's labeled in the Blue Book. So I went through and was looking secretaries because I thought, well, should I take all the secretaries and then divide it and average the income, but some of the secretaries were at 22,000. The one for the dean was at 44,000. So it's not going to be a good, without knowing what they are, what their actual title is, or what they're actually doing. I don't think we can get a clear picture ever.
I wish we had some sort of like consortium
I know.
universities to be able to, you know, like universities, to be able to share information and just, you know, even in conversations we've had come up, just to be able to call upon another person, another institution, how do you handle this? How do you, you know, how does your institution do this or that? So
Are we just looking at Missouri?
That's, well, that would be comparable, yes. I, like Derek, your, what's your title? Is it just advisor? Is that the?
Just academic advisor.
And they had several advisors and the scale was so far apart that I don't know if there was one, like if they had an academic advisor or if there was I couldn't just figure out how to do that.
I think that's pretty common. There are, you know, like advisor specialist type people who have more responsibility maybe, or been there longer. Or
Yeah, and that's where I was having such a problem, is because I couldn't distinguish. They had like someone in ours, we had like a lead technician and a technician manager. So there's no way for me to take those job titles and try to find it in another school.
question for Renee and HR. Renee, I don't know if you can answer this. It just, the thought popped in my head, like, so now that we don't have our classifications anymore, I think, don't they look at market data when they're trying to establish like baselines for salary ranges? Is there some blue book, if you will, you know, that HR is using, or do you have any info on that you could share?
I don't know what they look at for salaries. I know that they get together. I would assume that what they look at is market.
Yeah, I just didn't know what's out there, you know, that's public. Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, Kathy, back to your question. Is it something the Senate wants to, you know, further explore? Is there any other discussion around that?
I think that if we chose to do this, it's going to take more than the 4 people on 5 of us on our committee, because there is no, like for instance, Derek would have to go, because he knows what he does. He would have to go on other people's websites, find who's his equal, and then we would have to look those up in the Blue Book. So, I mean, there's no way that we could get all of our people done.
Did the charge come from this body?
No, the faculty did it. And they said, so it was something, I mean, I think Andrea and I had just chatted about it, and then we actually chatted about it in our meeting. And it was just it wasn't a formal meeting by any means. We just informally chatted, and go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt, go ahead.
That's
The
all right.
reason I ask is because we are talking in the ad hoc budget committee about getting a third party to come in and do like a salary evaluation.
Oh, well, then we won't do it. I mean, if
That's kind of what I would say. Like if we're not all doing that like together, I wouldn't spend your time doing it.
well, good, because I mean, it would be very difficult for us to try to find out who's equal at other schools.
And I'll keep pushing for that. We talked about it like from the first meeting that we had, so it has been some time, but I know that those third parties do cost money and, you know, obviously time. So as we'll continue talking about that, I'll keep that on my list of things to bring up and figure out.
Well,
where
and
we
I
are.
mean, obviously, we don't have any money. I mean, we've been told this over and over and over and over again. So, I mean, it wouldn't be a far-fetched idea that everybody, I mean, because this campus, again, it is a community and we all like one big family. I think everybody would take that upon themselves to find their equal and maybe I don't think it would be a stretch to ask people to do that, because then everybody would be finding their information. I mean, nobody in this room right now would say no to do it. So It's
I
just
think
about,
that's good. Yeah. If we all just figure it out and then we can compile it as a staff association.
yeah, because Evan, you could find your equal, Derek, Kendi, everybody could find their equal at the three, let's just say Northwest, Central Missouri State, and what's the other one?
SEMO, maybe?
Yeah, just, like the ones that are equal. Of course, we couldn't do like Mizzou or anything like that, but more so are equal.
And to give everybody some context, so Faculty Senate, they have a report, with data and slides where you can see on the faculty side, our salaries lag behind like institutions. And so, ideally, wouldn't it be nice if we could come together as faculty and a staff to say, institutionally, both parties together, we're behind our peers. And what can we do to address this? And how can we sit down with the administration and look into the future to figure out where can we go from here? We understand right now, we all understand the reality. However, when things get better, what can we, try to work towards? This is a priority for us. We're here to fight for this kind of a thing. And what we are lacking on the staff side is just data for the very reasons Kathy has explained. So just wanted to give a little context on that. I wish we could produce this lovely report, that mirrors. I think our data would be very similar in terms of trends and the graphs going up, or, everybody else is up and we're down, but being able to collect it.
And let me just tell you again, when I looked at the person who would have been there's three of us in my position that would be the equal to the person I found at Northwest. And it was about an 11,000 as a whole, on an average, about $11,000 difference.
More, right?
They got $11,000 more than the three of us on an average, our salaries on an average.
Well, Evan, I think it'd be great if, at your next ad hoc committee, if you could maybe find out, is this something that is on the radar to be explored and within some kind of time frame? And if it's so far out because we either can't afford it or we just have other priorities, then maybe we come back, Kathy, and look at a means of how can we ask everybody to contribute to the data collection and kind of go from there.
Well, we can get I think the easiest in my head, the easiest is get a list from HR or whatever, everybody that works at Missouri Western or all the staff. And then, if everybody wants to do it, go to those, and we'll name the three schools. Here's the blue book, find your equal on their websites and look their names up on the blue books, and then send the information to myself from my committee. And I think if people really wanted us to know the difference, they would do it. I really do. I mean, again, it took me all but 5 minutes to pull everything up and find that. So it shouldn't be too hard.
All right, well, let's put that on the radar. How's that? Thank you, that was good discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, Constitution and bylaws.
All right. We will be meeting this Friday at 9 a.m. We're working on updating the membership section of the Constitution. Right now, it still has the old classification system listed. So we're working on rewording that. And Sarah Freemeyer said that she would look it over once we rewrite it, make sure that it's actually accurate and it says who we represent correctly. We'll also be looking at the vice president duties section of the bylaws. Jean had mentioned that part of her position's duties are to keep up with the constituent list. And so we're going to make sure that there's a bullet point that says that, so that future first vice presidents know that that is one of their jobs. And then we are also going to discuss whether the first VP should serve on the welcoming committee as like one of the required duties, instead of right now Jean is just doing it out of the goodness of her heart. So we're going to discuss that. And then we're also going to look at the welcoming committee function section and see if we can change the wording around to make it so that the welcoming committee is a little more understandable that we are welcoming new staff members who are eligible for staff association. So that's what our committee is going to be working on. Hopefully by the next meeting, we will have some proposals that we can look over and vote on.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, because we actually discussed this with administration on Monday, because the issue
Mhm.
is when our classifications went away, it stated in the bylaws, like you stated, everybody's job fell under a classification, and when you got to a certain level, you were not part of staff association. And I can remember conversations in the past talking about that, because you don't want to have a supervisor and a subordinate, in a meeting that maybe isn't comfortable speaking up. But now that those classifications have gone away,
Mhm.
will there be some clarity about cutoff levels?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, for staff association, based on like the old classifications that we had.
Right.
The people that we represent, it's going to be part-time and full-time permanent staff members.
Okay.
So that means no MOAs, no VPs, no deans, no administration, no general counsel,
Or cabinet, probably.
no cabinet, yeah, so what's the other word?
Yeah.
So yeah, I talked to Sarah Freemeyer and got a list of like exactly what kind of titles we exclude, what kind of titles we include, and that's why she's going to look it over once we type it up,
Good.
so that.
So,
Accurate.
I'm sorry, why wouldn't we represent the MOAs? Because most of them are considered part-time employees.
Because they're temporary, they're not permanent staff members.
Okay, I mean, even though they're temporary, they're still part-time employees. I'm just curious.
I know
I'm with Renee on that. I think
a lot of years past where I know when I was on special events, when the invites would go out and it would pull from the staff association membership list, MOAs were never on there. For whatever reason, I know this was, brought up in the past.
But that can be fixed, because like when I was asking earlier, we direct who's on the staff association email list, and we can say who's on that. And basically it's all exempt and non-exempt, and we can put the MOAs on there. We just have to know who needs to be on there.
Is there anybody in this group that's part of Senate in the past that knows how or why that got written in the bylaws that way? I cannot speak to it.
Repeat it again. What was the question?
Like why MOAs why are they not included in staff association? Do you know why when bylaws were written, they were not included?
I think they've just always been that way. But that's no need to keep it that way.
I can look into it. Let me dig around a little bit and see. But in our committee meeting on Friday, we can talk about how to reword it if we want to include MOAs in the future.
I think the only question, in my opinion, is they couldn't serve on Senate or the A board or.
Right, because we don't know how long they're going to be here.
So maybe that's why they weren't written in, because they couldn't serve on.
But they could still be part of the association.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
because I mean, like
Right.
some of our MOAs are people maybe that have retired and then they come back and they work in an MOA position. And so I would think that we would still want to represent them.
but I think the stipulation should say cannot serve
Sure.
in a capacity of Senate or anything like that, or.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I get it.
I think that like the limit, because even though we don't have our classifications, their classifications went up to like directors levels, and anything above directors were
Right.
not included.
Right, and our policy reads now just non-exempt, exempt, and I would have to reread it, but it doesn't have classifications anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as the members of the association would be directors and below, if we're talking almost equal to what the C3 committee level was.
And that's what I talked to Sarah about. She went through and listed what each of the classifications were that are listed in our bylaws and told me what like area or position that represents. So that we are still representing the same groups that we were before. We're just rewording it so that it's actually based on how we're talking about our staff and not that old classification system.
Correct.
Greg Lindstedt just put something in the chat.
Greg said that he knows adjunct, part-time, or bridged faculty are not represented directly by Faculty Senate. And this includes those who are given admin duties that exceed one half teaching load.
Oh, so they're not part.
Yeah. So it might just be, I mean, a lot of what we do, we try to mirror Faculty Senate as well, so maybe that's why MOAs were not.
Maybe that's how it initially was.
And that's exactly right, because that all started mirroring Faculty Senate.
Which that was a big thing last year, is everyone wanted us to be consistent, which is why we changed our bylaws and why we changed our constitution. So we need to decide whether we want to be consistent or whether we want to include all these other positions.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we were trying to make it.
Yeah.
If we're gonna mirror it, we can mirror it, but we can still have MOAs attend anything they want to attend.
Yeah, I know we used to, and we would invite MOAs to events.
Greg said we should shoot higher than mirroring Faculty Senate. We'll see what we can do.
Thanks for the chuckle, Greg. All right, any more of your report? Is that?
That's everything. If you have questions for me or comments about how we're changing anything, just shoot me an email and let me know. Or you can join me on Friday.
When will you have it out and ready for us to review?
At least 2 weeks before our next meeting, so that we can vote at the next meeting. That's all I got for you.
Well, if you're changing the Constitution, it has to go out to the association.
Yeah, that's why I said 2 weeks before the next meeting, you'll definitely know everything.
Okay,
Everyone can review it if we are gonna do a vote at the next meeting.
To move forward with a full vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for Amber? All right, welcoming.
It's me again. Sorry, you have to listen to me more. For welcoming committee, we only have 3 committee members right now. So we are looking to have more people join us. We had 2 members resign. So if you are interested in being part of the welcoming committee, please let either myself or Jean or Karen Luke, let one of us know so that we can get you involved. Essentially what we do is we meet once a month and we just welcome new staff members who are eligible for staff association. We're working on trying to figure out a new way to welcome new members, because right now we give them like a cup with some stuff in it, but we are running out of stuff and we don't have a great budget to work with. So if you have ideas, let us know. Right now we do still have like chocolate bars and coffee mugs, and we have some pins and t-shirts. So we're gonna work with what we have. We should be good for the next few months at least. And then Jean created a new postcard for the welcoming, like little note. So it'll say, you know, the staff member's name, it'll have a big welcome message, and then it'll explain what staff association is and let them know who their staff Senate representative is. And then we're working on, our goal is to ask staff members like for, you know, what they wish they would have known when they started working here, or if they have any tips that we can share with new staff members. So we're working on just getting more ways to welcome staff members. I think the rest was kind of just our message to our group.
I just got used to it.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
But
Thank you.
yeah, if you're interested in being on welcoming committee, let one of us know. We'd like to have 2 more people so that we can get up to the 5, so that we don't have to make an amendment to not have enough committee members.
The bylaws state we need 5 per committee, and so there currently is 3.
It doesn't matter whether you're exempt or non-exempt, because we have the specific requirements met already. So it can be any staff member that wants to join us.
Excellent. Thank you. Election. So I'm going to read this report. So Colette Weipert was the secretary of the e-board, and her last day at Missouri Western was last week. And so she is no longer here. She is moving on to new adventures. Very happy for her and thankful for her service to the Senate. She was so organized, gave me a big old binder of information. But her role is also the election chair. So when she left, that vacated that seat. And so Barb Harris and Debbie Vaughn graciously agreed to co-chair. So thank you to the both of them for agreeing to do that. So I'm going to read their report. There's a mention of thanking Colette for her service and everything she did. She was very committed to the role, very organized and on top of things, and always very pleasant. Really appreciated her service. So as of today, they've received 10 nominations for staff senate, 5 exempt and 5 non-exempt. That was due to terms that were changing. And then we currently have 2 vacant seats. So there's normally 4 exempt, 4 non-exempt seats open each election, but there's 5 each due to one role that we never filled and then Colette's seat. We can always use more nominations, as you never know whether or not the proposed nominees will accept. If you have an idea of someone you feel would be a good person to serve, please don't hesitate to submit their name to Debbie Vaughn. If you would like to run for Senate, you please nominate yourself. And again, let Debbie Vaughn know. Her email is dvaughn. And then nominations must be submitted by no later than 4:30 p.m. on Friday, April 23rd. If you have questions regarding what it means to serve as a staff senator, please don't hesitate to speak with any of the current senators or executive board members. That is the election report. Professional development.
We're going to meet tomorrow, which is exciting. We got news from Annette Weeks that limited funds have been released for the what's it called, the Center for Workforce Development, which hosts those certifications and kind of online courses. Those funds have been released for staff members to use specifically. I don't know the quantity of those funds, or how it's going to be made equitable across the university. We're going to kind of talk about the process that we want to develop to meet that need tomorrow.
Super for your committee. I know you guys have been very eager, and so to have a partnership and maybe some funding to use towards some ideas that you already have in the works, this is fantastic.
Yep, it's good. We're happy about it.
Great. Special events.
Thank you to everyone who's attended the Griffin lunch hours this far this semester, and the esports staff game thing. I played games on a computer for the first time, so get in there if you haven't yet. It's pretty fun. And if I can do it, anyone can. So, and I now know how to recommend it to students and exactly how they can accomplish that. So thanks for that. We do have the plant and seed exchange this Friday, April 16th at noon. If you are planning to attend that, please RSVP to Kendi. There's a post about it in the Facebook group as well. Looking ahead, our committee is probably going to meet fairly soon. I haven't reached out to them, so Kendi, if you're on here, don't have surprised eyes. I'm going to reach out to you all to kind of talk about what things we could do for the summer to kind of boost morale, do some connections. So more on that at the next meeting.
Question.
Yes.
Are we allowed to come to the plant and seed exchange if we don't plan on exchanging, if we just want to come and hang out?
Yes, yes. Even if you don't have a plant to exchange, you can come.
Okay, cool.
So like, there's not a prerequisite, you have to have a green thumb, because you would not want me to attend, but I love to come and learn and listen to the talk. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, and there will be a master gardener there to speak with people, so.
I will not speak with them because I would not know how to even engage in that conversation. Thank you, Kendi and Steve, for organizing that. I think that's a great idea. Actually, Dr. Kennedy was super excited about that one. When we were talking about the different things that we've been doing, her eyes kind of lit up as, well, that's terrific. So very good. Great idea. Are you still looking for volunteers to host future ones, or are you covered for a while?
We don't have a plan for May, so I mean,
Okay.
I'm always looking for people who would be interested or have something. I think we've had a good variety of fun things. Props to Andrea for the awesome friends activity. So if anyone wants to do one, it can be as casual or as involved as you would like. So definitely reach out.
Perfect. Thank you. And Susan Garrison reached out that Advantage has no report. So thank you. Lots of good stuff going on within our committees. Thank you for not letting COVID halt all of your progress. So very good discussion. Moving into the president's report. So thank you to Kendi, Steve Van Dyke, and Kim Weddle for these surprise eggs that were delivered. Just that little treat and just having somebody deliver. So senators delivered them to their constituents, much like we did the meal tickets, but that was the 3 of them. That was all of their efforts and ideas. So great. Just isn't it fun to get a smile back in return for just a tiny little gesture? So thank you to the 3 of you for that. Also a shout out to Barb Harris and Debbie Vaughn for stepping on the election committee responsibilities. I've already read Daryl's report. So Monday, Evan and I met with administration now that Paulette is not here and Jean was unable to attend. So some highlights of what we discussed. We are able to have an outdoor event like a retreat, like we were not able to have in December. And so they finally feel like we can be in the clear to have that. So Melissa literally got notified, an hour and a half before today's meeting, no time to reach out to her committee. But I think this is exciting. So the new event request form that went out, I think Friday with that COVID update, we just have to get that pushed through and approved before, just for, to make sure. And Daryl agreed that we could spend some budget on that. So super exciting. All of our patients is gonna go into one awesome event. So we're gonna cross our fingers that it's not a day of rain or anything like that, because a backup space indoors is not possible. So good luck to the challenge of this committee. They're up for it. They've done great work all year long. Super excited to see what they come up with. But finally, guys, some great news. We can do something fun. So woo-hoo to that.
So excited.
We did, after the town hall, I had a couple of follow-up conversations in regards to Chiefs training camp. If that ends up happening and the NFL goes forward with that, about how that would be staffed. Because the last time that was on our campus, we had a much higher number of staff members. And so I think there was some genuine concern about how would that even look like. So we did bring that to the table. Dr. Kennedy said it's all up to the NFL and what guidelines might look like, and that is still up in the air. But we did share the concerns on the staff end of that. We talked about, it was mentioned in the town hall about faculty contracts, how that is being worked on right now on a priority before faculty, before their contracts end. And then the question was posed in the chat during the town hall about staff contracts. So I believe it's going to move more toward a certificate of appointment, and Renee can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that's what Daryl said. Those are being reworked and reworded, but there is a goal to have those available to exempt employees by July 1 when that would start. Renee, is that a fair summary? Anything?
I'm not aware. I will have to verify.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Summer hours will remain status quo, so campus will be open on Fridays. We were asked to follow up about that after the last meeting, and so there was just discussion about, a family gets in a car and drives to campus on a Friday and there's no one here. We're not in a situation where we can afford to lose anyone at this point, so things will look to remain status quo throughout this summer. A discussion about, in the future, ways for Senate to be more involved. For example, I think Dr. Kennedy brought this up. Next week is Administrative Professionals Day. Is there a way for Senate to get involved in maybe some recognitions or those kinds of things? If anybody has any ideas on that, it's, more moving forward in the future, how Senate can just be more involved and maybe have more exposure of some things that we could do in that regard. A couple of challenges that I think that we were given from administration, and it was a positive conversation, and Evan, you are welcome to chime in on any of this, but whenever we talk about, issues or concerns or problems, that we also come with solutions, bring both the issues and the solutions to the table. And that to just remind ourselves that we're creating work within our committees that's valued in order to get more involvement within our association. So if the work that we're doing is valued by our employees, they're going to want to be part of being on Senate and being on our various committees. And so just to kind of keep that on the forefront about that valuing piece. And then we did also discuss, I mentioned earlier, the staff association membership from an administration perspective. Jean is not with us today. I don't believe she has a report. There's been no budget money spent. Hopefully moving forward, we will have something, a line item once we get to have our event. Other business and open discussion, I do have a few things here. No, he typically, he's gonna chat in if Greg has a report. Yeah. Last meeting, I had kind of posed to senators to come to this meeting prepared to vote. However, I'm not sure if you just want to have a discussion or if you want to wait until next year with the new Senate, which probably makes sense since this is going to apply to them, about how you want future meetings to look like. So hopefully by next, August, when we would gather again after we get through our May meeting. So as a reminder, we do not meet in June and July. We'll have one more meeting in May and then convene in August. How you want to move forward with those meetings, whether you want, if we're back to a face-to-face only, like we used to have pre-COVID. If you want that with a Zoom option, do we want the YouTube? Do we want the recording out there? Do we not? I think there's been a lot of, pros and cons to every scenario that has been discussed. And like I said, I had charged senators with let's vote today, but the more I thought about it, perhaps that's something the new Senate should address at their August meeting. I would welcome comments. Don't everybody speak at once.
Well, my opinion now, of course, is to leave it up to the option, but like you said, come August, it may be a totally different environment. We may be full unmasked and everybody vaccinated. I mean, everything may change by August.
Right.
So what we decide now may be not what we want in August.
And it will be a different group of people too.
Correct.
Do we want to wait and continue status quo like what we're doing where senators can either come in person or Zoom, everyone else on YouTube? The meeting is recorded and available with that link. Continue that in May because we really only have one more meeting. And then just in August, the new Senate, those of you that will be part of that will be on your list of things to want to discuss and figure out.
I think that's the best option, but that's just my opinion.
Do others agree?
I agree.
I agree.
Should have taken a look, I guess. Okay. All right, that's how we will move forward. So we will not take a vote on that. We will just charge the new Senate to figure that out when the time comes. So with that, I was reading through the bylaws in the Constitution, but what will happen is new Senate will be voted on once the nomination period ends. The vote will open with, and then in June, a special meeting of the new Senate will vote on their new e-board, who will start July 1. So that's how that process will work. It was different this last year because of COVID. We didn't meet until August to move forward, and Kathy graciously hung on to this president role through the summer. But we will meet in June to elect to start July 1. And I encourage those of you that are listening, or please nominate others, encourage others to run. I think there'll be more opportunity next year for the Senate to do things when we get back to a more normal environment. I'm excited for things to go back to normal. I think we've done the best that we can considering the circumstances, but please consider your peers and yourselves. We hope that you would consider serving to make our campus and our positions that we work in the best that it could be.
Did the new Senate vote on
The new Senate votes on the e-board.
no, can the new Senate vote on the format of the meetings in June as well, so that they're prepared for the?
Oh, I would think so. If the new Senate votes at that June special meeting, when they will elect their e-board, because you're gonna need to communicate out the first meeting, how you're gonna hold it.
So
So
then they should vote on it.
they should take care of it at that point in time. Is everybody in agreement with that? That could be another piece of that meeting. Okay, good point. My final bullet point here before I'll turn it over for other ideas. So we currently have 16 senator positions, and the bylaws state it's 8 exempt, 8 non-exempt. Nowhere does it delineate where the 16 came from. Maybe somebody knows, but faculty senate, it's 8%. They have a percent of their faculty, and then it breaks down into each college or area, how many representatives they have. Ours just states 16 total, 8 and 8. But we've had such a reduction in the number of staff members on this campus that it has, posed this idea of, is 16 too many? Should we reduce that? We currently, as of the constituent list from February the 10th, we have 230 members on the staff association. Now, some of this could change in light of what Amherst committee is working on. Of that, 129 are exempt, which is about 56%. 99 are non-exempt, about 43%. And then there's 2 folks that have a N1 designation. I'm not sure what that is, but
Those are both non-exempt.
they are non-exempt.
They are non-exempt.
So then that would put us at 129 exempt and 101 non-exempt. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That will make that a 56% exempt, a 44% non-exempt. Because the question became then, if you shrink your number of senators, do you need to readjust the allocation between exempt and non-exempt? But at 56 and 44, that's not a big difference. So I don't know that there's justification for changing that, but I just wanted to have a discussion about if you think we should reduce the number of senators. If we did, that would require a constitution change, which would have to be voted on by the staff association.
That, and I do know, I took a glance at the constituent list today, and there are some people that are currently not employed here, and there are some administrators on that list. So I don't know how much that skews the number.
Okay, so you're saying it's probably less than what I would have pulled when I looked at that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
16 on the 230.
You, 8% of that number is actually 18, so it'd be an increase, but that's just using, Greg, do you have any idea why faculty uses 8% or came up with 8%, or has it just always been that way there too?
It's always been that way in faculty senate. And that's all I got on that one. But it is per college. So the larger colleges have a larger representation than the other ones.
Well, and staff has exempt and non-exempt, so there's just two categories. So, I mean, if we have people to fill the seats, then I would suggest leaving it at 8 or 16 and not reducing it. I mean, if we get to the point where we need to reduce it because nobody's coming out to be in Senate, then that's one thing, but we have the people.
So Andrea, had you said that we needed 10 spots and we had 10 nominations?
Right, but those are not, but those people haven't necessarily accepted the nomination.
Sure. My only concern, and this is an emotional concern, whereas before, my opinion is that, yes, we should shrink the size in order to fill seats a little bit easier. If we shrink it and say, 2 of you who are nominated, we're going to cut that position. The optics aren't necessarily good that we decide to change it right when we have just the number to meet the number. And then we're like, yeah, but 2 of you we don't need. Only because of optics, not because of practicality, is kind of just something we might consider.
Well, you take the nominations and then you let people vote on it. You don't just automatically elect all your nominations.
And so even then, it becomes well, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Are you going to vote on your senators for 16 spots? Or to me, you would make the constitution change first, and the timing of all that, there isn't enough time, to get all that out, follow the guidelines for. I think it would be more of a, if there aren't enough spots, that folks are willing to accept nominations, then maybe. I just wanted to pose it for discussion, and the fact that, we were 16 senators for a much larger number of staff in the past. But I agree. I think the concern is, we could not fill the open role. is, I think, my personal concern. We've had that empty spot for months and we didn't have anybody come forward, even those we had approached. And certainly there are reasons why folks aren't interested, and everybody's taken on more within their own, you know, job responsibilities. And so just wanted to put that out there to have a conversation.
Can I add something, Andrea?
Absolutely.
We're going from, over a year ago, it was 15 senators, and we'll probably be down to 11 after next year, after we lose our one-year terminals. So that's what the 8% does to us. It is concerning, but we expect that to go up to 12, and 12 is a good number. But you know, it adjusts with the amount of people, and we do that every spring. We take account of eligible faculty, and that's what impacts the vote. The problem is this year is we lost so many, and then the rotation was off. We actually had built into our constitution that we could extend somebody's years of service on Senate a year to even that out a little bit. And that worked out pretty well. So we didn't have to have quite so many new senators coming in.
So you take your 8%, so like, tell me your timeline. So like at what point did you look at your 8% like in March and then
January.
January.
Elections are in March.
Right. So in January, you looked at your percent, you knew the numbers that you had before your election happened.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So the big change now, you know, I think would only take place if we didn't get, you know, the response that we need. Hopefully we do. But I just wanted to put it out there to start to think about. I hope it's not anything, but this is good discussion. So thank you.
Hey, Andrea, to kind of along these lines, you know, administration had said something to the effect of how important an emeritus position is on sort of an e-board or executive team. We might all start thinking about whether or not we want to kind of add one of those non-voting kind of advisory positions. Like Kathy has been kind of doing ad hoc because she's wonderful. Just kind of hanging out and telling us what things were. If we want to make that kind of an official thing, might be worth discussing at least.
Yeah, Dr. Kennedy had stated that one-year terms on e-board just makes it hard for continuity. But this is probably the standard old, well, this is how we've always done it, right? Like we use for so many different things. She had kind of said it would sure be nice if there was some continuity of leadership. So like Evan is saying, whether it's your VP role makes a commitment to then serve as president the next year. Our problem is we have 2-year terms. So if you serve on, you know, an e-board your second term and you turn around and, you know, either aren't voted in or you decide not to continue on, what happens in that kind of scenario? There would be a, you know, strategy for that. But yes, she did mention that.
The president, like me, I'm ex officio, so I don't get a voting. Well, I guess
you are because you're a senator, but if you weren't a senator.
But I would still have to come to the meetings because it's written in the bylaws.
Right. Well, it actually says serves in a capacity. I forget what you probably can quote that better than I could. But
So I mean, we do kind of have that in there.
Right.
Our previous president.
But she means actually coming to the meetings to meet with leadership. So then it's not just your 4 e-board 1 year, and then the next year it's your 4 new e-board, and then the next year it's a 4 new e-board. There would be some sort of continuity of somebody stays on, you know, to kind of share, hey, here's last year what we did, you know.
And we did that. Fred was ours, and he wasn't a senator, but he continued to advise.
But he's actually saying meet with administration.
Oh.
Yeah, and be part of the e-board. Like the e-board should have a built-in position that you are, if you serve this year, you stay the next year too, kind of a thing, is what she's saying would be helpful.
Well, then just put the ex-president as that should be their person. That should be the person. Like,
well, I'm not sure that's true.
no, what I'm saying is that's what you could write in there because you have the experience, and why wouldn't it be you?
Well, meeting, it's actually within the Senate. So, right, Evan, isn't that how you understood it?
Like it's a
Like an
position that we
actual
vote for.
senator that's, yeah. So not like, so like for me, for example, I rotate off as E-board, I come off Senate, you know, and does like Jean as VP move into a president role to then continue that? And then your next vice president would move in that kind of a manner, is I think what she has posed, you know, just presenting as an idea to discuss. She didn't have any framework or anything like that. It was just a general discussion about how that might help.
And Greg just said our past president does not have to be active senator to serve on the advisory role. And that's what I was kind of saying. We don't have, I mean, if I was not a senator right now, I would still be coming to the meetings.
And that's how Fred was. Fred wasn't a senator.
Yeah.
Right, but that's not the issue we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
No, we're talking about actually sitting down monthly with administration when the E-board goes, is how I interpreted that. Evan, am I off base?
No, I'm not sure if that's what I think she was saying. We should probably reach out for clarification. I think she just meant an ex officio capacity and maybe didn't know that we had been doing such.
Yeah, because it's built into the bylaws for that. I think maybe I just misinterpreted. that part.
Because that makes sense that like next year, if you didn't run for president and get it this year, then you would serve in that capacity and go to those meetings and do whatever. If that's what you guys are saying that needs to happen, that should happen.
No, I don't think that's it at all. I think it was just think about this and how we can best, you know, serve and.
Like having someone on the E-board that has history in those administration meetings so that it can be continued.
Right.
That would be a president, right? The ex-president or the,
But she's saying it doesn't have to be
It doesn't
the
have to
president,
be.
it could be anybody who has been on the E-board or has been a senator, who has that history with the association.
never mind. Okay. I'm not, I was just saying if that's already written into the Constitution that person would be there. So it would just make sense to be that person.
It's only
I'm
written
just trying to help out. Not a big deal.
to be an advisor to the president. It's not written in that they have to go to the like executive board meeting.
But you could, I mean, never mind. It's fine.
Either way, it have to be a vote. That's what we're saying,
Right.
is that it's not currently in there.
Okay.
Just think about it. It's nothing that has to happen now. I think it was just her way of trying to, you know, you get 4 people in, you have conversation, and then you get a new 4 people in, and it's like, they don't know the conversations that have been had and the relationship building. At the end of the day, that's ultimately what the discussion was about. It's a good thing. It's a good concept to consider. It's just how do we structure it? So that it's easy to identify how this works. That's ultimately what it is. So if anybody has any ideas, we can talk about it next meeting. That was just, it was just more of a kind of a side comment that she was making, so. Other business or open discussion?
I have a question. For offices who have some new staff, I know with different things, especially with the awesome Easter eggs, we've got a bunch of new staff, not a bunch, a few new staff and admissions. Who should we be, like, how can they get added to the constituent list so that they're not left off of those things?
They're added to the constituent list once we get the message from eBoard that they're a new staff member.
Okay.
And then they are welcomed once we have that list.
Okay.
So if they get hired like right after we welcome someone, they'll be welcomed the next month.
Okay,
So they're not always welcomed right when they start.
okay,
It takes us a little bit.
perfect.
Does that answer that question?
Yeah, it's okay.
If there's somebody that we missed, though, let me know.
Well, I'm not sure about the welcoming. I more just meant when the Easter eggs went out, I was like, oh, this list is still missing some of our admissions counselors
Oh.
that are new.
It's not updated just yet, the constituent list. It's only updated as of like the last time we welcomed a big
Okay.
group, which was,
The list I had was, okay, the list that was saved in our shared drive that I was working off of was February 10th, but maybe there was another.
Oh, no,
one.
that was it.
Is that it? Okay.
we have a list of people that we just welcomed in March. I don't know if they're on that constituent list
Okay.
just yet.
Perfect.
So that would explain why there are gaps.
Yep, yeah. No problem. Just want to make sure there wasn't anything we could do to
It will be updated.
Yeah, good question. Other things we can talk about or ideas?
Well, something's in the chat.
Oh,
I think. Unless that's the same.
we're gonna check the chat. We're not sure.
Oh, no, that's still.
It's still the same thing.
All right. President is a voting member of the chat board, but does not have to be voting member to me. Oh, okay, that's a different message.
Okay, okay. Nothing? All right, well, we've had good discussion today. Thank you. Our final meeting of the year will be Wednesday, May the 12th at 3 o'clock. Same location or on Zoom. If nobody else has anything they want to discuss, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
There,
Who was the other?
I didn't hear the other one, was it Renee?
Erica.
I'll just second.
Thank you.
That's the second.
Evans and Croce.
Like, there's a lot of people unmuted.
I know, these are the reasons why going back to face will be so much easier for those running meetings. Very good. Thank you all. Anyone opposed to adjourning this meeting and wants to stay on here and chat forever? No, okay. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Kevin, on this, or the Kevin, just stop it.
I'm gonna let him know. You can end the